It's just a thrill for me to have Carolyn Miller back with me today. Carolyn was my very, very first podcast interview almost 3 years ago. So, Carolyn, it is so nice to have you back again and to see your smiling face from across the pond.
Hi, Jen. It's so good to see you all. Thank you so much. It does feel like such a privilege to be back again. So, yay.
I, I just love talking to you, Carolyn. You kind of tire me out with everything you have going on. So I feel my age when I'm around you. So let's just jump in and tell us what you've been up to over the last few years.
Oh my goodness. I've been writing lots of books. So I think the last time we talked, I had just released maybe Muskoka Blue, which was my sixth book in the original six series. And so that book actually springboarded a whole new series called the Muskoka Romance series, which I've just finished and released. Oh gosh, just happen to have a copy
Oh,
here
very
of
good.
Muskoka Miracle, which actually is like a sequel to Muskoka Blue. So if you've read Muskoka Blue, you'll see the same two lead characters in this, and what happens next. And I actually wrote that gosh, a million years ago. Um, and it's so nice to finally see books that you've lived with and characters you've lived with for so long finally get their chance to breathe and go, ah, it is finished, it is done. So that's been fun. And I've actually got a new hockey series out as well and a bunch of other series. It's like, when you start writing a book and then characters speak to you and they say, "Excuse me, I want my own story." What are you going to do? I think it's only fair to, give them their moment to shine too. And
Absolutely.
sometimes that's just led to other series and it's like, "Oh my goodness, it's out of control."
You do have an amazing number of books under your belt at this point. So it kind of boggles my mind. You must either write really fast or lock yourself in a room for hours on end. I don't know how you do it.
It is a mixture of both. But I will say, I used to be a high school teacher, and my youngest is in year 11 here in Australia. So that's the second last year of high school. It's always been my policy since my husband and we were pastors and then we stopped pastoring. When I started writing, I treated this as my career. So I would start at 9, I would finish when the kids got home from school. And so, yes, that would mean I spend a lot of time writing, and I have learned to write fast from my first contract with Kriegel, which was for my Regency Bride series. I had to learn to write fast because I was releasing 3 books a year with them. So it's not that hard for me now, except it is kind of hard for me now because we're juggling a whole bunch of other things as well. So in this particular season, but I feel like God has actually prepped me for that. So there is, I've got 6 books releasing this year, 5 of them were written last year. So it does take a lot of pressure off this year, in terms
Oh,
of that. Figuring things out again.
you don't ever stumble with writer's block or just trying to get the next thing going? Do you have your whole books mapped out in your mind and just whip them out? I wish I could do
I
that.
I tend to do that, and I think it's like a muscle. So I've kind of been learning to do that. Um, so some of these characters are pretty insistent. So, I find it's almost like when they speak, if I don't listen at that time, it's going to be a lot harder to get back into it. So I will try and slam out. I just call it a fast first draft. It's not perfect by any means, but it means instead of being up here, it's in the computer and I can actually tweak it, edit it, do something with it later. Um, but when it's just churning away up here, it's really kind of hard to, you know,
Uh,
let go of it and push
I
it aside.
I think we talked about that last time because I tend to be one of those that have to perfect that chapter before I can move to the next one. That's how I am, and it slows me. It does slow me down. I know that, but I
Yeah.
can't seem to break that habit. So yeah, I feel like I'm a slow writer for that reason. And I don't have the whole story in my head. I'm waiting for the Holy Spirit to guide me.
Have the whole story either. So it's like an adventure every time. I mean, I'll usually have the blurb because usually I'll have a pre-order up. So it's like, okay, I know how it's going to end. And I know, hello, I write romance is going to be a happily ever
Like,
after. But how we get there, and then something funny in this latest book, I had somebody say to me, you wrote the blurb, and oh, that's my husband there.
nice to meet him.
Yeah, because it's 7 in the morning. Um, God bless him. And the person, one of these readers, lovely readers from, I think she was from Germany or something, she said, in your blurb, you have this line about how they go back, she goes back to Australia. And did I miss something in the book? And I was like, oh, that's because I wrote the blurb a year ago. And I thought I was going to do that. And I forgot to check and tweak it. So it's now tweaked, but it is
Oh,
it's like, you have the plan, but you don't necessarily follow every single thing in the plan. But anyway,
well, that's
that's
good.
life.
Well, good that you can do that. Mine are, so you're obviously a character driven more than plot driven.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I think
Yeah.
whatever plot we get, it's a bonus.
So you have, we talked about this just briefly before we started recording, all these
Yeah.
hockey stories. You have got to know a lot about hockey and you've got to have a love for hockey to be into hockey like that.
It's crazy, right? And I'm Australian. So it's my personal experience of hockey is not great, like in terms of actually visiting games. Except maybe because I'm an Australian, I can have this appreciation for a sport that doesn't get like we do a lot of football and not American football. We have like four different codes of football here in Australia, including something called Australian rules, which is completely different to anything I think people have seen. But um hockey's just so different because, ice is foreign to us in Australia. I mean, like, hello, we do get snow, and where I live, we've had snow a few times, which is really cool. But I just think it's tough. I think the fact they have to do 82 games in their normal season, like their normal schedule, is insane. You've got to be physically tough, physically alert. Like, when you watch a game, the puck just moves so fast. And I love finding Christian hockey players that I stalk. No, no, that I research because they're out there. And then I love to imagine, well, obviously they have not been married all their life. How did they meet their significant others? And just exploring that. And so I think for me, I'm just intrigued. So I do have the original six, which is six books set in the initial six cities where the National Hockey League was played. And now I have a new series called Northwest Ice.
I saw
Um,
that. That's what your book is, and this plays by the book
yeah,
is your book for Northwest Ice.
that's right. So it has cities that sort of stretch from uh, Minnesota through to Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Seattle, and San Jose. So it's kind of like that sort of section or that sort of section, whichever way you're looking, of the Northwest Ice of Canadian and USA. So it's again been fun because I've visited a number of those places as well. So on my website, I have like, little pictures of where I've been and, how certain areas can contribute to some of the scenes in the books as well. So it is pretty fun to do that sort of thing.
It sounds like it. You're very creative that way. So can you tell us, obviously even though Plays by the Book is not coming out until July, you have your blurb done, you have your pre-order done. It just blows my mind. I can't even imagine trying to get a book done, let alone having all that. I'm almost done. I'm on the epilogue for a Christmas novella, and I don't even have a title for yet, let alone a back cover blurb. So can you give us, do you have your blurb for that book?
I do, and I just had to look it up because,
You
I'm
don't
so
have it all up here in your mind, all memorized?
and it is terrible. I don't even have, I think I've got 45 books or something like that. And I don't even have some big massive spreadsheet somewhere with all the characters. I actually need to do that because occasionally I get things wrong. But anyway, my
Uh-huh.
blurb for Plays by the Book, my as I read it from Amazon, which I just had to get
See,
up.
I could have jumped
Um,
on there and done that myself.
Oh no, that's cool. It says when a single and sorry, when a secure and single librarian gives romance tips from fiction, nothing can go wrong, right? Britta Johnson knows she's ordinary and she's totally okay with that. She's secure in God, in her purposes on the planet, and romance is something she finds between the pages of a book. She doesn't need that in real life. So when a hockey player asks for advice on how to woo his long distance girlfriend, she knows her heart is safe until it's not.
Mm.
Mitchell Riley might be feared on the ice rink, but even he's intimidated by this little ninja librarian who can whip teenagers into line with a single look. She knows her books too and seems the perfect candidate to help him find some romantic fictional heroes he can impress his girlfriend with until she's not. As emotions start to blur and fiction gets a little real, they realize that what started with the best of intentions has changed what they always thought they wanted and might just be what God wants for them after all. So, Plays by the
Oh,
Book is a book in the Northwest Ice Christian hockey romance series, perfect for fans of books with hope, heart, and
yeah.
humor.
Saw that as your tagline on your website. I did read the back cover blurb actually on your website earlier. Sounds good. Do you know
Yeah.
my daughter happens to be a librarian. I just thought that was kind of fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I think this is going to be the perfect book for people who like books, right?
Oh yeah.
Because a librarian, someone who reads, someone who knows books. And I figured it's not too much of a stretch for an unromantic hockey player to actually be searching for ways to find romance.
Some
And
research.
hello, we know that there is a difference between fiction and reality. And I wanted to do like a love triangle without it being too love triangle-y because
Yeah.
I don't like some of those books. It's not a trope that I've written about very much at all, but I wanted to do it just to challenge myself. So how can you write it? So I feel like this is a good setup. And it's also good because Mitchell Riley, my hero, is a character that people have met in my Trinity Lake series. So he's kind of had a bit of a introduction, and the setup
Okay.
is not necessarily what people might expect from that particular series. So if they've read that, then they read this, they might go, oh, and then they'll go, oh, that makes sense now. So
Are your
it's
how fun. Are your books on Kindle Unlimited?
some of them are, the Trinity Lakes ones are, so
Okay.
people can find those ones there.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's fun. And I think the other thing that people are going to connect with, your readers are going to connect with, is your character sees herself as plain and, not all that impressive. And I think most of us feel that way when we look in the mirror, more so when we get older. The older we get, the more that happens. But people can relate to that because it's hard to relate to somebody who's perfect and it's like
Oh,
a Hallmark movie. You get kind of that whole Hallmark movie formulaic kind of thing. I heard somebody, where was I the other day? Somebody was talking to someone else about, why do you watch that channel? I can't believe it. I don't even know where we were. I don't remember where we were, but I heard somebody going on about, you've seen the story 100 times. It's the same story with different characters. It's not and anything different, but it's popular for a reason. I mean, people want to see
yes.
romance over and over again. So for whatever reason, it's popular.
Well, I was conscious too because this is part of a series. It can be read as a standalone. Um, my previous two characters had had significant careers. In fact, the first character in the Northwest Ice series, Fire and Ice, she's like a TV sports reporter. The second one is very ordinary, except she's not so ordinary in that she's like a bit of a goth. So she's got,
Oh,
tat spiders, all that kind of stuff. So she's a bit different. The third one is somebody who's ordinary but gets plucked from obscurity into Dancing with the Stars, that kind of
wow.
thing.
Yeah.
But she's got a profile. So that's what's that one? Point, shoots, and scores. And my last previous book, in the Northwest Ice series is oh my gosh, gotta look it up. Faking the Shot, which is exactly like what you were just talking about a Hallmark type actress who's got that sort of glamorous, facade, but people don't really know her. So, having had a number of those kinds of characters, I was really conscious I needed to have someone who was not like that at all,
Right.
very ordinary, very hopefully relatable. And And people could just go, "Oh, I can see myself in her." And she's very much like me, does the church stuff, does the family stuff. It's not having the big life,
Right.
at all. So I think it's important to showcase that. And also, I mean, I've always had a thing. The very the very first book I ever had published had, the handsome hero. So I was very conscious with the second book that I had to not have a handsome hero because I didn't want to create this whole feed into the stereotype of
Right.
one has to be handsome or one has to be beautiful to have the
Love.
exceptional life. Yeah, because God loves all of us. Um, and I think we need to be showcasing that in our books as well.
Well, I do think that I agree with you 100%. I do think that to some extent there has to be an attraction between two people, at
Yeah.
least that much. But what I love is somebody asked me when I met my husband, I would just started dating my husband's, a friend of mine said, well, do you think he's good looking? I said, well, the longer I know him, the better looking he becomes because you start seeing them from for their heart. And then we're not
Yeah.
looking at the outside anymore. If we're walking with the Lord, we start to see people from the inside. And if somebody were
Yeah.
to ask me to describe a really good friend of mine that I love, I don't see the
Yeah.
flaws. I see the heart. And I think
And
that's
you
so important.
And you don't necessarily describe people when you know them really well. You don't describe them on their looks. Like you don't
Oh,
say, oh, they're stunningly beautiful. You just talk about the other sorts of thing. And I think you're so right. Like when you get to know someone and their heart starts to shine through, and that's exactly what I've tried to portray with this book. I feel like there's almost a physical switch that we have when we get to know someone. And so you get to see this part, and then there's like a physical switch where you just go, oh, I'm not just seeing this, I'm seeing behind that and seeing
right.
who you actually are. And so trying to sort of demonstrate that in books, I think is powerful because, so often so much of society is all about the facade
Right.
and
But how people
what
look
people
and
initially see.
especially
Yeah.
for women trying to keep up with what the expectation is, what beauty looks like. And the opposite is true as well. You can see somebody
Yeah.
who physically looks really good, but then as you get
Ah,
to know their heart and you find out they really are a wretched person.
yeah.
As we call
Yeah.
it the ugly, they're ugly, they're being ugly or hateful. It's not
Yeah.
that they are ugly, it's that their personality is ugly. So they
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
describing it in that way. And so it's a really dumb movie, but there was a movie out. What was it? It was with, I don't even like this guy, Black Jack or Jack Black or
Oh, Shallow Hell. The
yes,
one where,
Shallow
yes.
Hal.
Yeah.
But that movie, I do not care for that actor. That's just a personal thing for me. But that movie was so interesting
Yeah.
in how he saw, he had that curse or whatever put on him, and he saw this girl who was extremely overweight, and she was like a beautiful model like to him, and then the people
Yeah.
that were good looking were just looked horrible because he was seeing
Yeah.
the inside rather than the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's so important to encourage people to keep looking at the heart
Mhm.
and to encourage people to have a sweetheart because especially as Christians, we want to be known to be like Jesus and
Right,
Jesus loved people, right? So
right.
if we if we allow other stuff to pollute that, that is not a great witness.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I agree with you. Speaking of, you said, I hope I'm not talking about out of turn here, but you said something about you and your husband going back into a pastorship or pastoring.
yeah. Yeah, so we pastored a church for 10, 11 years or so, from 2000. And then we merged our church with another church in our area. And so since then, it's been pastored by the other pastor. But it started this year, we started taking a lot of responsibility. And a few weeks ago, we received the official handover, which is really cool. So, yes, I'm juggling pastoring a church with writing,
Mm.
my family,
Raising
the
your
rest.
kids.
Yeah, yeah, which makes life extra fun. Oh, and I started an ESL class, English as
Oh,
a second language
really?
for migrants in our area
Oh,
because
wow.
Australia has this kind of rule that they need to have a degree, like a certain level of English proficiency, if they're to have permanent residency in Australia.
That's a
So
that's a
we
good
had a
role.
man. Yeah, we had a man in our church ask if the church had any English classes to help support people like that. And I said no, investigated. There's nowhere in the area. People would have to travel an hour and a half or so to get into Sydney to do that. And it's just like, this is dumb. I'm a retired English teacher. I know plenty of other English teachers, and we might not know all the answers, but between us, we can try and help. So we've been doing that since the start of the year as well. So
Wow.
it's like, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on, lots of, balls I'm juggling, but God is good and gracious, and think I'm now figuring out how to sort of balance some of these things.
We're watching your husband come and give you coffee. It seems to me that you are hyped up already. You got all this energy. So as we're talking here, it's 7 o'clock in the morning where Carolyn is. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon where I am. She's just got
You
up.
can have my coffee.
I wouldn't sleep tonight if I did that. I was up at
No.
3 this morning, so I'm starting to drag. So it's great to have you all enthusiastic. You can just take over and I can sit back and listen to you. I could listen to you. I love accents. I know you don't think you have one. Everybody who's listening to this podcast is going to hear your accent and love it. So, so all
Oh,
these
that's
things
funny.
going on and the writing the books and the raising the family and pastoring and now the ESL classes and everything else. What do you do to relax, Carolyn?
Well, it might surprise no one to know that I love to read.
Oh no, really?
I know.
What a
I know.
shocker.
Isn't it amazing that I have so many characters who are all like Jane Austen or Georgette Hale or Ellen Montgomery? They're just like me. I don't understand that at all. No, I love to read. I enjoy watching movies, so going to the movies with friends. I enjoy going out with friends. Um, I actually, in addition to all the other things, I started going to the gym this year,
Oh,
and
good for you.
I'm really enjoying that. I do a Pilates class and I do two strength ones because, I'm getting older and I need to look after my bones. And it's just good mental health wise to be away from the computer and do different sorts of things. So
I've
I'm
always
off.
had a home gym. I've always had somewhere because I don't want to take the time to go to the gym then come back. So, and when my husband and I met, it was kind of funny because I didn't know anybody else who got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and did life starting at 4, but he did. So our
Wow.
ever since we've been are married, we start off with an hour with a Bible study and then an hour working out in the home gym. And I don't think I could function if I couldn't exercise. I really believe that it's when my daughter had her traumatic brain injury, they were really pushing her to do aerobic work in order to get
Yeah.
that oxygen to the brain for the neurons to grow. And if you
Mm.
don't have that, you can get sluggish really fast. Really.
Oh, especially when your job involves sitting down for
Mhm.
long periods of time. And I've noticed, I mean, it's not just getting older. Like I used to be a high school teacher, so you would walk around quite a lot. And so now my walking consists of mostly walking my
Yeah,
dog. And so it's not nearly as good. I haven't sort of done the whole standing desk thing. I just
right. I tried it. I was a middle school teacher, so I know what you're talking about, getting
yeah,
up.
yeah.
You never sit down. And I did have a tread desk for a while, but there's something
Oh,
about going that slow all the time starts wearing on the knee. And I thought, I'm not,
yeah,
I'm better off just running a couple, 3 days a week and doing
yeah,
weights and stuff and not trying to walk all day. So,
yeah. No, but going to the gym is has been really good and I'm so glad and I really have no excuse because it is literally down my street. Like we're
oh,
talking 500 meters away. So when I drop my son at school and I drive past, I'm driving past back
to the
right
gym.
next to so it's just like there is no excuse. It is slack to drive there. But I am already out in the car and
Uh-huh.
like, so I'm justifying it that way.
Well, you know what? If I had a gym right down the street, we live out in the country. So for me to go to a gym,
Yeah.
it's probably half an hour each way, you know?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, no, you
Yeah.
need one at home.
Yeah. It's nice. It's nice to have it at home. And then I'm in control. I just keep
Yeah.
collecting more exercise equipment. I just bought a rowing machine in January. So that's a hard workout at the rowing machine.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Wow.
That's a hard
I
one.
like it though. It's
It
good,
is.
isn't it?
It
As long
is.
as you're doing it right. I was doing it
Yes.
at the and then got told I was not doing it right. So
My
I haven't done
sister-in-law
it.
tried it at the gym and she was saying her back hurt so bad. And let's sit down and let me see what you're doing. Because I was told if you don't do it right, you're gonna, and my husband's a
Yeah.
chiropractor, so you want to keep your back right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it makes a big difference. But they say you work 85% of your muscles when you're rowing. That's a
Yes.
huge
And it's
amount.
so good for your cardio as
Uh-huh.
well, like for your heart
Exactly.
and everything.
Yeah,
Mm,
it's a good workout. So,
yeah.
reading and movies and all these things, and you have so your son is. Do you only have one child at home now, or is that your oldest or your youngest?
I have four kids. One has moved out, is doing uni at Sydney. The other three are here. So my eldest graduated uni last year. And I have another son who is in second year engineering at
Wow.
university as well. So my youngest, yes, just has what, another year and a half or so to go. And so it's a good season to be in, like when they're older, more independent, have cars, can do things. So it's not like I'm in that same mummy season
Yeah.
that I was before.
Wow. Have you all have all boys?
Girl, boy, girl, boy.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good for you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so that was cool. And it was particularly cool because, I've just released this book about, this Muskoka miracle. But in that book that actually echoes some of my husband and my story and a friend of mine's story about miscarriage and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So to see God's blessing on the other side and go, wow, God, you are so good and so faithful and you do answer prayers and
Yep.
stuff like
Able
that.
to
I
give
just
hope.
that's really cool. Yeah.
Able to give hope. I just I teach Sunday school, teaching middle school all the time. I never thought I would see myself with the older preschool kids, 4 and 5 year olds.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm teaching now. And we have this adorable little girl in our class that I just love. I love the whole family. We spend a lot of time with them. But we were teaching on Second Samuel where Hannah's praying to have the baby and she desperately
Yeah.
wants a child. And then I love how he gives her this child and she offers him back to the Lord
Yes.
for service, but
Yes.
then he blesses her with many more children after that. So I was trying
Yeah.
to explain to the kids, you know, that Samuel heard the Lord speak. So he thought it was
Yeah.
Eli. He had never heard the Lord speak, and that we can hear the
Yeah.
Lord speak to us. I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
hear the Lord with, it's not like audible, but you hear him with your heart. And so the other
Yeah.
little kids are talking to my Sunday school partner and little Adel, and she bends over. She goes, Miss Jennifer, she says, my heart doesn't have any ears. How can I hear him talk to me? I was just like, oh my
Oh,
gosh, so sweet. So
horrible.
those moments make it worth it, the whole year worth
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
I love teaching that grade. I never thought I
So
would, but I do.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
they're
Love
sweet.
it.
Yeah, until
Mm,
they're not. And they're still that age. So you never
yeah,
quite know what you're going to get day to day.
that's right.
Well, Carolyn, it has been so fun catching up with you, and I'll make sure I have all the links in your show notes, and we're going to put this on YouTube. We'll link that up with some tags and everything so people can find you. And
Yeah.
it's just been a pleasure. This went by so fast, believe it or not, we've been talking for 30 minutes.
Gosh, well, you're
Yeah.
just so fun to talk to. So,
I feel the same way about
and
you.
you know how to ask, you know how to ask the right questions.
It's a flying off the seat of my pants, that's for sure. But it's been so fun. I've enjoyed this so much. And the next book you have out, just give me a call and we will do this again. Thank you so much
Fantastic.
for coming on
Thank
today.
you.
I really appreciate it. And you guys will make sure you have all of those links that you need to get Carolyn's book and get on her website. Do you have a newsletter, Carolyn?
I do, and if people sign up for it, they can sign up at carolynmillerauthor.com. I have two different free novellas you can have. You can have a Regency one or you can have a contemporary one, and they both feed into some of my books that I have. So it's a great
Perfect.
chance.
Perfect. Then we'll have that all available for them. So God bless you, Carolyn, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much and happy reading, everybody.
Happy reading, everybody. Bye.